see you.
Good to see you, Noble.
So, Brooke, thank you so much for being willing to join us on this series that we're doing with working moms, whether they be single moms or married moms that are just working in some sort of capacity, and just having the courage and transparency to be willing to, again, to share your story. So can you share with us, how long have you been homeschooling?
I've been homeschooling. I was one of those moms, I would always tell people, don't do what I did. I started homeschooling when my oldest was about 3 and he's 17 now. So somewhere between 13 and 14 years. Got out like Teach a Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons and was like, you can do this. And my last 2 have not had that same experience.
Got it.
I learned a little.
Got it. Sure. Now, were you homeschooled? Like, where did the idea come from?
That's such a good question. So when I was like in 4th grade, I would be reading along in the history textbook and I would just be reading at my own pace. And then the teacher would call on me and I would have no idea where we were because I was chapters ahead. And because I was too bored at the pace that we were going. And so I remember thinking, if I could just do this book at the pace that I want to go at, then this would be so much more fun. And so that was kind of a seed the Lord planted. And then I got to high school and I went to a really small private high school. And I met a homeschooler for the first time. And I was like, what are you? And tell me about this thing, and one of them became my best friend. And I peppered her mom with questions. What do you do? How do you do it? What do you mean you homeschool? Is that even legal? And so I just got really interested in it. And then my then husband really struggled through school. I loved school. Like I did school for stress relief. I loved school, which makes me an interesting homeschool mom. But my kid's dad didn't love school. And so he wanted to homeschool too. And that was kind of a big deal to him. And because he'd had such a difficult experience in school. So.
And you have 4 children, right? I
have 4. Yep.
What's the old age range, the oldest and the youngest?
Yeah. So I have a 17-year-old in Challenge 3. I have a 16-year-old in Challenge 2. I have a 12-year-old in Foundations and Essentials. And then I have a 8-year-old in Just Foundations.
Oh my goodness. And now how are you supporting yourself?
Well, we get child support. I was married for 20 years, so I get some maintenance. And then I tutor Challenge 4, and I'm a classical conversation specialist. So I get to be the book lady.
Wow, that's amazing, man.
I know, it's really fun.
That is amazing. So before we jump into your story, how has CC helped you as a single working homeschool mom?
I found classical conversations. I have not always done it. So I've done it this is my 5th year. And I found classical conversations because I was getting really sick. I had daily migraines. My kidneys were failing. My thyroid was failing. And so I was getting really sick and I'd always homeschooled on my own. I'd never been in a co-op or anything. And I was getting super sick, and my kid's dad at the time kind of laid down the gauntlet, like, you have to do something different. And I can look back now and think maybe he wanted me to stop homeschooling, but that's not what he said. And so I looked into classical conversations and I thought, well, here we go. This is a curriculum that's off. I can take it off the shelf. I can give it to my kiddos, and this might work. And so I get there the first day and I have never seen it ever. I've never been in a Foundations or Challenge classroom. I walk into my first Foundations classroom and I say to my tutor, I've never done this before. And she says, I haven't either. Let's do it together. Because it was a brand new community and it was awesome. And I left that day like, this is so much easier than everything I've been doing before. Because, I tell people, spend 15 minutes, breakfast, lunch, and dinner you're reviewing history, language, math, science, English, and another one that I can't think of the moment. But anyway, and you're done. Like literally, if that's all you did all day long, you have covered more subjects than I was covering before I was homeschooling. And I'm spending, just a few minutes, and it's sticking. They know this. So my daughter earlier today was in a reading session with a tutor, and the tutor asked her about, where is this guy living? And she looks at the tutor and very seriously says, well, I think these are grasslands. Because we just learned the biomes a few weeks ago, right? And so she's like, biomes, this is the grasslands. I don't think that's exactly what her teacher thought she was going to say.
That is amazing. And, and it's so neat just from your perspective to have one in Foundations, which is elementary school, and then a couple in Challenge, which is high school. That's be able to see it from both kind of perspectives of, I'm sure, is fascinating. So can you just share a little bit about your story?
Yeah. I alluded to my kid's dad and how sick I was. And I was sick because I was under a lot of stress. I was in an abusive marriage. I had been married at that time about 17 years. And I was sick because my body was breaking down due to the stress of being married and being in an abusive relationship. And my marriage was not primarily physical, although physical was a piece. It was mostly emotional, spiritual, financial, psychological kind of abuse. And I didn't know anybody else who was going through this. And so I really didn't have any hope, but I was basically becoming bedridden. And that was why I sought out classical conversations as a thing. And when I found in community, I found these ladies, and I would tell them, we would be in class, and I was just so sure I was just not worth anything. And so I would just be like, I'm so sorry. And it's so nice of you guys to be nice to me. And they would be like, we like you. And I'm like, haha, you just don't know me very well yet. As the story went on, as time went on, I realized they really did like me. So they were like the first people I had met in, my 37 years of life that liked me for me, I felt like, and really loved me and were supportive and told me I was doing a good job, and that Jesus was enough, and that he was enough in me for my kids. And really were beginning to say, like, maybe this behavior that you're experiencing at home isn't good. They didn't know what it was, but they didn't think it was good. And so that was really helpful. And as I kind of progressed down that road, I eventually found some counselors. Their response was to truly hear where I thought I was at, and then help me. And so I really didn't have friends. That's why CC became such a big deal, because all of a sudden I had people around me again. And that hadn't happened in a long time because he never liked my friends.
And as difficult and sad and challenging and exasperating and all those things that you have been through, just how God, just the blessing, I guess the blessing of community.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's such it's almost like God giving us oxygen through his kids.
Absolutely. For me, it was absolute oxygen. Here, these people liked me, and I thought I was unlovable and unlikable, and my community loved me.
That reminds me of John 13:34 and 35. Jesus said, by this, all men will know that you're my disciples if you love one another. And then one of the CC leaders says, to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to love in a practical way. And I mean, it just really sounds like that's been your experience. Kind of shifting angles a little bit. Do you feel, or let me ask you this, you certainly as a Challenge 4, director, with amazing and just amazing. And then also as a product sales specialist, do you recommend or encourage other single moms to pursue different roles in CC? And if so, why?
I get that a lot, right? Because that's part of my story. So when I get up at a practicum and I say I'm a single mom to 4 kids, as I'm introducing myself, a lot of people then come up and ask me, how are you doing this? Is this whatever? And I have my community. Oddly enough, I was the only single mom the very first year. And in last year there were 5 of us. I love that this is a way for me to bring in money, but still be really connected to my kids. And I absolutely love it. And it creates that accountability. When you're a single mom, you're going 1,000 different directions. But like with the being a Challenge 4 director, I'm in it. I'm in the material. My son is going to be in this material next year. Just the fact that I have to be studying physics this year makes me want to also study chemistry, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to miss chemistry for the physics. And so it's I just love it. And I to be in the thing, we're homeschooling. I'm homeschooling all the time now. And it's my work, and it's also my kids and my life. And it gives me great pleasure. And I say, if you can find a way, do it. It's so helpful. I mean, and I can always, if I need more work, I can find it. It works around my schedule too, because it's very set, right? I know where I'm going to be when I'm going to be, and I can work another job around that too. And so I've really loved it. So
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brooke. So just last question. What would be the last piece of advice that you would share with another single homeschooling working mom?
so you talked about love in the Bible. The thing that through this time in my life, I've just been totally impacted with, and actually talked with my Challenge 4 class. So it's really fun. And we were doing genealogies last week in our studies, and we came over, we talked about Tamar, and the guys were like, she is interesting. And I said, you know what, guys, she is really interesting, but I want to tell you something. This woman is, so I flipped them to Matthew 1, and I said, look, what do you see here? Oh, you see her name. Her name is listed. And I said, because God is the changer of stories. And so as a single mom, it feels like we can't do X, Y, or Z, if it's, but if the Lord is calling you to homeschooling, or you're already homeschooling, God is the changer of stories. He's the one who gets to write it in the end. And so follow him and trust him. I have no idea what the next 6 months looks like for me, but I know that at this moment I'm serving him in the ways that he's called me to. And I just have to keep trusting him that the next 6 months is going to be the same way. I know it is, but your mind gets to rolling and telling stories. So I just have to keep coming back and saying, he's the one who writes the story, not me. So.
Amen. Wow. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Brooke. I totally appreciate your time and sharing your story. And I know it's going to be a blessing and encouragement to those that get an opportunity to check it out. So God bless you. Thank you so much, Brooke.
All right. Thanks. Bye, Noble.